Hello there. What is going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about Game of Thrones and Star Wars kind of combined, primarily because the next Star Wars trilogy is going to be made by Dan and Dave, who have made Game of Thrones for HBO, and there's a little bit of crossover there. A lot of people are worried that they're not going to do a good job because there's this idea out there that suddenly this season they've thrown it all away and it's suddenly getting bad all of a sudden. And I kind of want to address that because I've got some of my own comments to make. Now, a lot of this is going to be my own opinion, but I'm going to give you my own take, and I'd love to hear what you guys think. But before I jump into it, let me just remind you, if you're new here, there's a big giveaway running until the end of the month for the Star Wars Celebration exclusive Hasbro Black Series Darth Maul and Obi-Wan. I will ship those worldwide. All you have to do to enter to win that giveaway is be a subscriber and leave a comment, and there's plenty that you can comment on because I'm looking to get a major discussion going on right now for those of you who do watch Game of Thrones and maybe you're a little bit worried about Star Wars. That being said, we need to stop pretending that all of a sudden this season it's suddenly, changing the show and they're throwing the plot away or the script away or things like that. So spoiler warning, I'm going to be talking about Game of Thrones, the final season. So that being said, at the time of me making this video, the finale has not yet aired, so I have not seen the finale yet. But with that, with the spoiler warning out of the way, we are going to talk about, the big battles that have happened and everything up into the second to last episode, which is Daenerys Targaryen kind of going crazy, burning down the whole city. There are a lot of arguments that kind of say that has been too much, that they've really, they've gotten off book, they've gone crazy. I think the problem is that they haven't gone crazy now. They haven't really thrown the show away. What they have done, though, is kind of changed the show ever since they went off book. So we're going back a couple of seasons. Here's the thing. When they were on book, before the show got off book, and they got off book a couple of seasons ago, when they were on book, the show was dynamite. This is my opinion here. I'm just giving you my opinion. But I think the show was amazing when they were on book. But it's not until they got past the books and then had to start doing it their own way and coming up. Now, granted, they were given an overlying vision from George R.R. Martin on how it would end, who would be on the Iron Throne. All of that stuff was already laid out. However, the problem is it wasn't laid out in tremendous detail. So once they got past the book and they didn't have any more twists or turns to kind of throw at you beyond the incredibly predictable, I think the show started going downhill back then, as soon as Jon Snow was resurrected. Because all of that stuff was just completely obvious. Everything that went to happen was very, very obvious. And the key that really changed 2 seasons ago was the fact that Game of Thrones stopped being unpredictable and started being very predictable. And in this last episode, it became a little bit unpredictable, but still they're kind of keeping with the basic premise of a lot of things that were outlined in the books and in the storyline. So I don't feel like they're suddenly changing the story. And I don't feel like this is any reason for you to worry about this next Star Wars trilogy. Because here is the problem. You have to look at when they started making this. Only one book has been released since they started making the show. They thought for sure years and years and years ago that George R.R. Martin would have finished his books, which were supposedly almost done by the time that they got to the final season. But, since I've started watching the show, I've then, in between, I think after season 6, I decided to read all of the books, and then 2 more seasons have come by. I still haven't had another book come out. I'm not even sure I want to read the books at this point, but I guess my point is, the books were really, really well done, but they were also very, very slow to come out. So as the show has passed the books, it's just kind of chosen the predictable path. But there are some things that the show has still done really well. So I'm not trying to crap all over the show and saying that they've thrown it down the chute. There's a lot of things that are really good. Hence the picture behind me, the cinematography, for even the things that are predictable, but the way that they are shooting these scenes and putting this show together is absolutely beautiful. I don't think anybody can argue that these scenes aren't done well. You might make an argument that the Battle of Winterfell was shot very dark, and I understand that. But there were also some amazing scenes and just shots that are absolutely breathtaking to behold. Very, very artistically done. So say what you will about the story and the plot, but the way it's shot is absolutely brilliant. That's a good thing for me because as Dan and Dave transition over to Star Wars, I hope they bring that same level of excellence with them into capturing scenes, because that is something that's important. I think that Star Wars can definitely benefit from those beautiful shots. So I'm definitely excited about that, and I'm staying optimistic because of that fact. I'm looking at the things that they've done good. There have also been a couple of story arcs that were done very, very well, as well as some that were dragged out very, very long. Like, a good combination of both of those is Littlefinger. I was happy to see him die, but at the same time, I was ashamed that they dragged it out for like 7 or 8 episodes longer than it should have been. It felt like it was just filler at that point, and now that we're in the final season, we're like, well, they could have really used more time and exposition on certain things. So I feel like they could have probably done a little bit of that a little bit better. But my point is that the show has had high points, but I think what they've suffered from is a lack of a cohesive vision during the entire process. And I don't think that that seems to be any problem that they're going to face with Star Wars in the next trilogy. They're not going to have an author, jump out halfway through. And that's it's like the creative design, vanish in the middle of storytelling. That is the same problem that the sequel Star Wars Trilogy has suffered from with a lot of fans, is that there fails to be this cohesive vision between episode 7 and episode 8, and then we're hoping that 9 is going to pull it back together with J.J. Abrams coming back to the director's chair, and hopefully it will. I look forward to it anyway, because I am also taking this into perspective. This is a first world problem that we've got. Our entertainment isn't entertaining enough. This is a great kind of problem to have. At the end of the day, if you're worried if the next movie or TV show you're going to watch is going to capture your interest well enough, well, then I think you need a little perspective and to say, this is a good kind of problem to have. So let's, we can nitpick about it and talk about it in that context, but at the same time, we have to kind of not rage about these things too much. Let's not have any friendships get ended over talking about Star Wars or Game of Thrones. My point is, I think the things that have gone wrong for them with Game of Thrones will not be present when they do Star Wars. And I think the things that have gone right for them will absolutely be present in abundance when they do Star Wars. So don't let the final season or the final several seasons of Game of Thrones sour you to the Dan and Dave trilogy for Star Wars. All right, guys, that's all I've got. I wanted to talk to you about that again today. I just wanted to thank you all so much for your continued support. I want to thank my patrons on Patreon. I want to thank all of you for subscribing and helping this channel grow. I want to just wish you guys a happy weekend. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care.